What's going on, everyone? It's Todd coming at you with another episode of Living Your Best Life. And of course, you already know what we do on the show, right? Well, if you don't, I'm going to tell you, right? We invite professionals on to talk about what they do and how what they do contributes to a healthier society, a wealthier society, just a better society in general. That's what we want, right? That's what we want. So these individuals are out there in the trenches each and every day, helping people do just that, live their best lives. And that's always your input treat today. Why? Because we have an awesome young lady that's going to be talking about relationships. Okay, now we're talking about, more so the romantic side of relationships, marriage and things like that. Because I think maybe if not all of us, we do long for that companionship. And if it moves into marriage, we want to know how to do it right. All right. And so this young lady, Candace Tuck, she's going to be coming on to talk about how to building a successful and happy marriage. Right. So anyway, everyone, Candace Tuck is going to be our guest today. Now, right quick, two things that I want to talk to you about. The first one is the challenge that we have jumping off, all right, July 29th. We don't want you to miss it, July 29th. This is the challenge, weight loss challenge. Of course, we're still in the summertime, but we still want to make sure that we are as healthy as we can be, and we still want to maintain that weight, all right, moving into the third and fourth quarter. So anyway, the challenge jumps off on the 29th, and we have a webinar coming up, I think on the 15th, and I'll put that down in the description so you make sure that you catch that. But also, if you're 50 and beyond, and above rather, we want you to be well beyond 50, right? We want you to be well beyond 50. And we have a download that I want everyone, if you are beyond 50 or above 50, to download 50 foods that you should definitely stop eating if you're over the age of 50. Just stop eating them. We don't need them, okay? And if you can't stop eating them, I get it. At least drastically reduce these foods, all right? Drastically reduce them. Once again, we don't need them. So listen, the July 29th Jumpstart, okay, it's the weight loss Jumpstart. Get in on it. That's the challenge. And also, if you're 50 and above, download the free PDF guide of the 50 foods that we should stop eating if you're above or after the age or over the age of 50. All right. So anyway, everyone, Candace Tuck is going to be coming on to the show, and she's going to talk about how to build a successful marriage, as we all want to do, right? All right, so everyone, that's that. I'll catch you on the other side of commercial. Be good. Peace. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Todd Cheek, of course. Like I said earlier in the intro, listen, download that file. Okay, 50 foods we should stop eating, especially if you are beyond 50. We want you to be well beyond 50. Okay, bottom line. And if you can't stop these foods, then definitely reduce them. All right, because some of these things we just don't need to be eating out here in this world. All righty, so download the PDF download. All righty, so everybody, I want to get on to this awesome young lady here. As you can see, she comes with the glam. She comes with that pop. When I first came across her profile, and I just, who doesn't notice the hair? And we'll talk a little bit about that as we venture into our conversation today. But this is, I had an awesome conversation with her a few weeks ago, and I was like, okay, we need to bring you to my audience and let you speak, because I think in a world where we're talking, we talk a lot about health and wellness on our show. We talk a lot about, wealth strategies and things like that. One of the things that we want to touch on today is your relationship. Relationship, not only with yourself, of course, that's an important one too, but our relationships with each other, particularly when it comes to marriage. and things like that. I'm married, and Mrs. Candace, she's married, and this is going to be an intimate and deep conversation. I definitely know it's going to take place today. I look forward to it. So, Candace, thank you so much for hanging out with me on Living Your Best Life today.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah.
And so I am ready.
Yeah, let's get it going. So, tell us, our audience, who you are and why you are, and as it relates to a relationship coach and all these things.
Okay. So I would say if I love the question of who am I? And so instead of just that generic, how we normally would say, I would
Mhm.
say I'm somebody that is creative. I am a lover of people. I am driven. I am Holy Spirit led is where I aim to be on a daily basis. And I just love life and I want to see people win. I just have this new awareness of like purpose
Mhm.
and the call that is on our life. And so I love moving in all aspects of that. And when it comes to our marriages and our relationship, that plays a big part in how we show up in life. As I sit here and think about it, like whatever is going on externally is one thing. And if the house is together, I'm able to go out and deal with the things of the world because home base is good. But if home base ain't good, everything externally, it doesn't bring you as much joy is because home is not right. And so I just love to work with couples. I love to work with individuals like you said. That relationship with us is number one. And it will be a mirror of how we show up with other people. And so
Wow. You touched on a lot of things. I should have been taking notes on this because I want to talk about a couple things. Now, you mentioned the word purpose, and I always like to talk about that word because a lot of us, we either are challenged with finding our purpose, we have found, well, I can't even say that we found our purpose because once I think when you find your purpose or you are on a path of finding your purpose, there's a new, like you say, you have a new look on life. Now, with you, finding your purpose, have you always been a person that knew your purpose, or did that come about like over the last whatever?
no, I wouldn't say that it's something that I was consciously aware of. Now, like when I'm doing now that I'm doing what I am doing, I can now look back on my life to see where, oh, that's been in me.
Mm,
Oh, when I was 12 years old, like I saw a video of me and my younger brothers. It was a Christmas video.
mhm,
And I was telling my youngest brother that's about 3 years younger than me, I probably was 11, maybe 11 or 12. And I literally told him, say your name.
mhm,
And as I look now, I was like, oh, I've been a coach. I've
mm,
been inspiring or encouraging people to, your name is your identity. So
mhm,
finding your identity, I look back on my years in high school when I was a captain of the basketball team. I've been inspiring people. I've been encouraging people. So not on the onset, no, was not clear. I knew I wanted to own my own business. I knew I wanted to go into education. But it wasn't until I honored what was in my heart that led me to discover what my purpose is.
Wow, wow, I love that. And but you're fortunate because there's a lot of people struggle with that,
Mhm.
finding their passion and or their purpose, whichever one comes first.
Yeah.
And so you're fortunate to have found that. And now you spoke on the house, and I think that is so important because if your house is in shambles, when you walk out into the world, we're going to see that. We're going to, the
Yeah.
world is going to pick up on that. And do you deal with a lot of people that you can tell, like, wow, there's a lot of things that are going on in the background that they're not, you know, they're not putting or they're not speaking about, rather.
Yes, I'm gonna answer that question, but I want to hit real quick just on that
Yeah.
purpose thing for those
Yeah.
people that are not aware of it, do not know it because, like you said, that is a real thing that
Yeah.
people are in their. You won't be fulfilled if you're not moving how God has called you to move. So for those that maybe do not know, have a want like and ask God, show me, put a
Mhm.
burning desire within me to show me what my purpose and my call is in life. And once we have a want for it, we will start being attuned to what's going on and okay, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. So that's just a nugget for
Can,
those.
can you help guide people to finding and understanding their purpose?
Yes, I believe I do that when my clients come to me as
Mhm.
they're coming for one thing, but I
Yeah.
always ask them, like, what is your want? What do you want
Mhm.
spiritually? What do you want
Mhm.
emotionally? What do you want in relationships? And then what do you want for yourself? And
Yeah.
then as we go on that journey in their sessions, and I start hearing them say things like, I want this. And then I start inquiring, like, okay, well, what gives you like what lights you on fire? You know, what
Mhm.
is that one thing that you would do if you don't get paid to do it? That
Mhm.
kind of is a glimpse. And they'll say it, and it's like, okay, well, let's experiment with it. Try it out. See if your fire is lit. Sometimes that may be okay, go volunteer here or look for a job here just to see and figure it out. But God wants us to know it so that you can operate in the world how He's called you. So He will
Yeah.
reveal it. You just
Yeah.
got to be on the journey of discovering it.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Because that when you said that, I was like, well, I got to go back to that purpose thing again.
Yeah.
So, because we can stay on that for a little bit too. But yeah. So, like I said, move to the house thing too. Because, like I said,
Yeah.
I want. Yeah.
And I would say I have this, and I just believe because it is a part of what I'm called to do, is that I will tune in and lock in to people. I people watch all the time.
Hmm.
And when it comes to emotions, like I can sense when
Hmm.
things are, just by your demeanor or how your look, or sometimes it's just in my speaking and conversation, I can tell, okay, something is going on within them. And me, I will inquire. Definitely if you somebody like that is like at my job or something like this, or just in passing, how you doing today? Or if the Holy Spirit is like give a word of encouragement, I do that too. But yeah, I have I don't know, I just people watch.
And I do the same thing too. What's your sign?
I'm a Pisces.
Man, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Pisces, right?
Okay.
And so, and the reason I asked that because the creative part of you, and the people, the observative part of you,
Yeah.
and so I kind of like it's like she sounds like what I do,
Yeah.
and so that led me to ask that question of whether or not you were. I was wondering if you were a Pisces, and
Yeah.
boom, you hit it right on the head. But so I wanted to, of course, invite you onto the show because um, uh, the topic of relationships, the topic of what you do in terms of helping couples have a happier marriage. That's why I wanted to talk to you today. Now, I have been looking, over the past few years and just, watching, observing, watching people have conversations or their actions when it comes to marriage. And I was wondering, do have you seen, I would say probably in the 21st century, so to speak, is marriage becoming less popular or is it the same in your expert opinion?
I believe that everybody still has that desire for
Mhm.
marriage. What I am realizing is people are wanting it to look like they want it to look.
Okay, got you.
And so the desire is there to find somebody to live with and do this life thing together forever. But it seems as though we're trying to get away from the original uh, design
Mhm.
for marriage, where people are literally wanting to just do their own thing and create their own rules. And I think when it's not done in alignment with how the creator designed it is when we start having some issues and
Yeah,
some
yeah,
problems. And the more that we can stay in alignment to how it was created, what your I would say responsibilities, or yeah, your responsibilities as a man and as a woman, how God has called you to show up. If we can stay with those basics, it will bring joy within our marriage if we're aiming to live accordingly. So
right.
I think, you know, you see the joy on people's face when the proposal happens. And I think people that date with purpose, it is marriage.
Yeah,
And so I
yeah.
think overall there is still a great desire to be married.
Now, me, I'm better in a marriage. You know, and I don't know if that's, I don't know what to call that. If there is a term for that.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I love being in a relationship. And in a committed relationship, I absolutely love. Now, mind you, this is my second marriage. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
do my first marriage right. I know that for sure because you know we'll speak about this a little bit later with regards to men. You know,
Mm-hmm.
in my first marriage, I was really afraid to show any kind of vulnerability.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to put up this image of I had it all together,
Mm-hmm.
and that I posted that image up with my friends. But then I brought that home to you know my ex-wife now, and I still so I never let that down. And so I know that was part of the deterioration of my marriage because
Yeah.
I wasn't keeping it so-called real. And so that's, I know. Now, have you, in your relationship, in your marriage, because how long have you been married for? Like, how
21
long
going,
now?
it'll be 22 in July.
22 in July. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so congratulations on that. Congratulations.
Ew.
And I know that that wasn't always a smooth ride, I'm assuming, right?
Oh, yes, you are very right. And I will speak. First of all, I want to say that I applaud you for the strength and the vulnerability now to be able to speak on what you have learned, what you recognize,
Yeah. Yeah.
because in that now awareness, in that acknowledgement and acceptance, is that now you allow yourself to be open to healing. You allow yourself to be open to doing it differently
Yeah.
in this marriage. And a lot of people are not willing to do that.
Yeah.
Uh, take that ownership there. So I applaud you for doing that, and definitely on a platform like this where other people can see, so that we can learn and men can grow
Yeah.
from you by hearing that.
We're
And
human, man.
exactly. And that's the thing we have to understand. Like you said, it's been 22 years. So these are revelations that I have had also after going through my spiritual life coaching program, is that we are all showing up a way that we are showing up because there are childhood wounds that
Mm.
are still relevant, and our inner children are running our life.
Oh my
Like if
goodness.
we don't heal that, like you showing up that way or me showing up in a way where I didn't always use my voice because I wanted peace externally, but that was I didn't want, I didn't see that growing up. So I don't want what this comes with. And so I there were times where I should have been speaking and I wasn't, and that desire to have peace externally was unloving to me because I didn't have peace internally. And so I had to get to a place where it wasn't I wasn't a coach at that time, but I was a counselor. I had my counseling degree at that time, and it was just like, this don't feel right. So for me it was like, why am I choosing to do this to myself? What is that about? Let me look at me as to where I would choose to have chaos and confusion within so that somebody else could have peace.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so I had to check that, understand what that was about, and then choose to say, no, your voice matters.
Mm.
Speak, talk through it, and you're gonna be all right. And that other person will be all right as well. And so it's just that understanding that we are all on a healing journey. And the powerful thing about marriage is that that intimate relationship is going to cause those inner things when our soul is ready to heal or release a childhood wound. It's going to show up as a series of events in our intimate relationships, whether that's at work, whether it's with our spouse, whether it's with our children, whether it's with our parents. And then we get to choose how we heal it, or do we want to heal it? And if you don't, you'll keep getting experiences over and over again. If God is ready for you to heal that and release that, He will keep allowing you the opportunity to have the experience until you say, okay, I got to
I
deal
got
with this.
it. I love how you say the opportunity because, the opportunity, I think we look at, when we see challenges, we see them as a bad and or wrong thing.
Mm,
And sometimes they can be really opportunities for us to grow. So
yeah,
we, don't, be careful what you call the blessings and the curses,
yeah,
in your life, because that very thing God is putting in front of you to say, hey, it's time for you to make a different choice. And
yeah.
I recognize that. When, like I said, I was in my first marriage, in my protecting myself, uh, being afraid to, like I said, look like I was losing, look like I had
Mm-hmm,
lost, I had a divorce and that was failure. My
mm-hmm,
parents have been married for 30, they've been married for like 40, 50 years now.
yeah,
Then it was like, maybe, 30 some odd, 40 years.
mm-hmm,
And so I use them as that model
yeah,
of like, this is, I can't fail at this. No one knew I was divorced for a whole year.
yeah,
And I walked around, my best friends didn't know I was divorced for a
yeah,
whole year. I walked around with this weight on my shoulder,
mm-hmm,
and I would go home each and every night to that empty house, um, after posing all day that everything was fine.
yeah,
And that was like crazy until one day I was like, I can't do this anymore. I hit the wall. I
yeah.
can't do this anymore. And I had to say, I'm divorced. And it was, of course, it was a weight off my shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
but it overall, like you said, Candace, it set me up. That whole experience set me up to have a different relationship with myself.
Yeah.
It led me to the path of like, okay, God, I'm doing something wrong here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it also led me to the beautiful lady that I'm married to today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's a different way that I'm showing up. Now, like you said, that child is still in there running around, and
Yeah.
I got to capture him and like, okay, you sit down, we got to have a talk.
Yeah. Right. And that's the thing I would tell couples, anybody, even whether I'm coaching them or not coaching them, we marry the adult version, but we also marry the child within. And so
Hmm.
you're marrying two people, really. And it's just like those little children are who come out when we are bumping heads and when we can't see, because they are what is present. Because in our adult mind, okay, we can sit down and have a rational conversation. We can
Yeah,
sit down and be on one accord in our adult mind. But if them little kids get to running rapid, it's like you said, Ty, it's we gotta, okay, girl, come
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Then I got this. I know you feel unsafe right now, or maybe right now it feels like, again, like your voice isn't mattering or whatever your thing is. But no, you absolutely have power. Your voice matters. And it's talking to yourself. when you know the truth of who you are and when you know the truth of God. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
talking to yourself what you know to be true. And many times in our marriages, we think it's a war between flesh and blood, and we blame and we put pointing the finger at each other, but it's really a spiritual warfare going on that, of course, the enemy will want to dissemble this powerful union, because when two are gathered,
Together.
are the three chords. Like when
Mm-hmm.
we in one with God, we unstoppable.
Yeah.
We're unstoppable. And we're forced to be reckoned with, as Neo and Fabulous say. We're good, but we're forced when we're together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So in 22 years, what have you learned about yourself in marriage?
Oh, in 22 years, I have learned that I was carrying shame and guilt for
Mm.
a very long time. Unknowing, like unconscious. I thought I had moved past the thing that
Wow.
happened in high school, and in carrying the shame or the guilt. It was really guilt, I think, more so, that was still present. There was a fight for my character that I
Mm.
was in, that, and how that showed up in my union is when my husband would try to call out certain things, I didn't want to look like I was wrong. So it was hard for me to acknowledge the wrong, or that I didn't handle that right. It was me trying to justify it or whatever, because I felt like it was a unknowingly attack on my character.
Mhm.
And the moment that I healed that part of me, I was definitely in a place where I could say, yeah, I did do that.
Mm.
I can apologize for that. And so it shifted me there. I feel like I was carrying unforgiveness, not for my husband unforgiveness, but I had a unforgiveness towards people that wasn't um in my household. But even with that, it goes to, like you saying, that unforgiveness is a weight you carrying. And no matter
Mhm.
where you go, it is present.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
may not see how it is showing up, but the moment that I forgave them, forgave myself, there was a load lifted off of
Mm.
me. So I
Wow.
felt lighter. So in me feeling lighter, I get to show up in my home differently. I get to
Mm.
show up with my kids differently.
Mhm.
And so marriage is literally, we get to see our reflection in our spouse. It's like if we wasn't looking in the mirror, I wouldn't be able to see my ears. I wouldn't be able to see the back of my head. There are
Yeah.
places on me that I will not be able to see if I was not looking in the mirror.
Mhm.
And so our spouses are our mirrors. They see things in us that we may not see. And so prayerfully, they can call it out in a loving way. And so that we can then, even if we don't see it, maybe we can take it to God and, like, if this is in me and this is something you said I need to change, continue to show me. And like I said earlier, if it's something that God wants you to change, it'll come through other people. And I would be honest and say this: not all spouses come from a loving place. They can be harsh, they can be being petty, and in their hurt, they just trying to hurt you by saying something that really ain't you. So you don't have
Mhm.
to take everything that is being said, but I think those things in which we need to change, we will have an inner conviction
Yeah.
about it. Once the
Yeah.
dust and the energy settles, it's like, am I showing up like that? Am I doing it? And so I love that my husband can be my mirror in a good way, and
Yeah.
when I say a good way, he can still call out things like, babe, you need to be doing this, or babe, you got it, babe. That's a good way. The other way is that those grow moments, like,
Mm.
you need to change that. So yeah.
That is so. Now, here's the question on the other side of that. In 22 years, what have you learned about your husband?
I have learned that my husband is doing the best that he can
Mm.
at that in that moment, whatever that moment is. he is doing the best that he can. And although I may see a different level of greatness, if he doesn't see it, I have to be patient and still speak it until he can see it. I have learned about that inner child.
Wow.
I'm able to see it in both of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in another way that I've learned my husband in these years is that he is love, which he's been at, and I know that's why I was one reason that we are together, because his upbringing was different from mine. For as his parents outwardly showed love, like I knew I was loved, but my parents wasn't a hug, kiss, and they wasn't
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
we knew
Yeah.
they loved us based off
Yeah.
they took care of
Yeah.
us. We wasn't abused, this and that. But it was an outward expression of love. And I just believe my little girl needed that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that is one reason as to why God brought us together, because of the dynamics of his family in that. And so just being able to realize, and see his growth
Awesome.
as
Awesome.
well. And so, yeah, I tell him all the time, I watch everything. He was like,
That's
I know you do.
awesome.
I do. I watch everything.
That's
Sometimes he
awesome.
wake up and I be looking at him. I'm just staring at him because I just like him to sleep.
Oh,
See him
I
sleep.
get that too. I get that
Yeah.
too. But I do the same thing too. I do the same thing. I'll wake up and I just look at my wife, she sleeps. And she sleeps way more peacefully than I do. And I will
Yeah.
say. And so I'll just watch her sleep,
Yeah.
and this is, that moment of peace. And
Exactly.
yeah, and so I enjoy watching that. And like I said, congratulations on 22 years coming up.
Thank you.
And that is awesome. So there is hope for marriage in the 21st century in your estimation, then, right?
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
we're gonna keep pressing forward and pushing
Yes.
and making it happen.
And
And
I
so,
and I would
yeah,
say I would say that it is. I'm so glad you made that statement. Those of us that are married, I say this all the time. People are watching. Marriage is of God. So, of
mhm,
course, people are watching us. So, we have a different responsibility when we say I do. Because
yeah.
either people are gonna look at our marriage and say, I want that. Or they gonna look at our marriage and be like,
Mm-mm.
I don't know if I want that. And so it will make people second guess something that God created as good.
And I think that's what people are seeing, though, because they're seeing the divorce, they're seeing the arguments, they're seeing the fights, and of course, we tend to drift more to negative news in society,
Right.
more positive news,
Mm-hmm.
but they see the breakdown of marriages, and so therefore they're not seeing people like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
not hearing. So I'm glad that you're out. You got a platform, and we're
Yeah.
going to talk about your platform, couples. What's it called?
The couples lounge.
The couples lounge. Yeah, we're going to talk about that because that was really interesting. As I was learning more about that. But like I said, you're out here. You're championing this matrimony here and this union of marriage and what God has set for us. And so, but you're out here in the trenches helping and showing people that this is possible.
Yeah.
And that's what we need.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
And
So,
we need more of us that don't even have a platform, because the thing about it is, and yes, I'm grateful for our platform. I'm
mhm,
grateful for how God has called us to minister in this realm, in this earth realm. But the impact as well is just in our families,
yeah,
in our homes. What do our kids see? Because if
yeah.
they're seeing something that's healthy, something that's whole, not something that's perfect, but I know they love each other, and I can see that they're trying this. They have a positive view of marriage, and so they want to eventually find that. But if every day I'm looking at my parents cussing each other out, it's abuse, it's people not coming home, it's I don't want that. I don't want to get
Mhm.
married. So it is just, if we are all doing what we our very, very best in the spaces in which we go, we can shift how it looks. But that is called for all married people to get on one accord with the original design of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, I'm enjoying this because I always say like, these are like master classes for me because, I'm
Yeah.
learning, as we speak. And as you speak, I'm always grabbing these nuggets and things like, wow, this is pretty interesting because you spoke about a couple minutes ago about how your husband had a different family culture with regards to affection
Mm-hmm.
versus how, and it's the same way with my wife now because she had a she has a more affectionate family and than mine, so we didn't, we weren't like I love you, and I think I was probably the only one that just said to break the mold to say, let me say I love you, or or let me massage my mom's scalp,
Mm-hmm.
and show that kind of affection. So to this day, when I try to hug my sister, she's like, ah, you know, and so that's just the way it is. Like I said, it doesn't mean that we don't love each other, but
Right.
does that also did that play in your ability to be affectionate in your marriage and in your relationship?
It didn't, and I always think about this because I'm the only girl that was raised in my house. My dad had other kids, but in the house, I was the only girl with three boys. And
Mm,
I don't know if it is a girl thing that wasn't it wasn't a challenging adjustment for me. It was very different though, because
hmm.
he's from the country, I'm from the city. So when I would go visit, everybody would be driving past you, they waving, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, hey, I'm like, well, they don't know me. And
Yeah.
then, his parents to embrace and hug and kiss,
Hmm.
it was like your sister. It wasn't like, but it was like, ooh, this is different.
Yeah.
But it was, like I said, it was something that my little girl needed. So I think I was able to embrace it a lot quicker. And I knew also, like, I don't know if I knew that love part, but it was something that I wanted to give my children. I wanted to make sure I hug. I want to make sure I kiss my kids. And
Yeah.
so from the moment my kids been in this world, I hug, I kiss, I outwardly, not just with my words, but I externally show them that I love them. And so I think it was not necessarily a big adjustment for me. Now, when it comes to
Yeah.
my family, I do that too. I hug my brothers. But I still think with my dad and my mom, it's still kind of awkward a little bit. But if it peaks in my head, I would definitely do it. But I wonder, like, how do my brothers? I know my oldest brother is pretty good at showing affection, but the last two, I just wonder how it shows up in their relationships. That
Yeah.
that piece.
And I think with me, I'm in between, because I'm it's still a uh uh something that I have to overcome even more so.
Yeah.
I often grab my wife's hand, those affectionate or other signs of affection, I'm a cuddler, and so those things, I know about me for sure. And so those things I can handle, but there's still some things that I definitely need to kind of like work on. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, we're definitely a work in progress at all times. But like I said, you drop these nuggets, and I wanted to also congratulate you and your husband. Don't know him, but when you said, I see you,
Mm,
and I see your growth, and that's important, I think, for men to know.
yeah.
um and because when our wives no longer see that,
Yeah.
or when they're either overly critical, then oh man, that's a you know kick in the
Yeah.
guts, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're sitting here, just even in sharing that, it just reminded me of like Proverbs where it says we are our husband's crown. And it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
how are we showing up with
yeah,
our husband? And a foolish wife would tear down the house with her own hands. And so it's
yeah,
being mindful of that our husbands need acknowledgement.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think as women, like just over the course of doing a podcast, I remember one guy saying, like, we are humans too, and we
Mm,
need it. And I think men, just because they may not be overly or open with what they are dealing with, their emotions, I think for sometimes women can assume that they don't need it, or
mm,
we are looking at y'all as this epitome of strength,
hmm.
and he don't need that, or he hasn't spoken that he needs that. But I think it's just realizing that y'all are human, and
Right,
we
right.
all want to feel needed, we all
Yeah.
want to feel loved, we all want to feel connection, just because it's
Hmm.
just how God has made us. And so if we as wives can be intentional about, and sometimes that may be, you might not need it, as they say, love language. Words of affirmation may not be your thing, but that's marriage too. Sometimes we gotta compromise. Sometimes we gotta get out of our comfort zone and say, let me speak to my husband. Let me
Yeah.
just remind him of how amazing he is, because he may not have nobody else. If women, we do it all day. We can tell each other, girl, I love you, girl. You've been doing your thing,
Hmm.
girl. But men may not um, applaud each other in that same way. So if
Yeah, yeah,
he's not getting that, he
yeah,
should at least get it from us. And the
yeah.
aim should, maybe even be like once a week. Sometimes it's like, okay, let me make sure I put a reminder on my phone to speak something positive to my husband and not be so focused on what he ain't doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's the
Yeah.
thing, what he's not doing. So the question right quick, because I wanted to we're always, as we speak about qualities and things like that in each, the male and the female, what qualities do women look for in a man?
Okay, and this is me speaking as my
Yeah.
grown woman, not as
And,
my
and so and,
25-year
and so
old.
and that's what I wanted to. So I wanted to kind of like, and I'm glad that you said that because I was thinking about this earlier because the qualities that we look for pre-marriage, is there a difference in the qualities that we look for in a marriage or for a marriage? So yeah, go ahead.
I would say on be willing to go on a journey of change. Because as you continue to live, what what you wanted or desired early on may change, just because we are changing internally. And I think sometimes people get stuck with, well, that's not what you wanted when we first met. Oh, you didn't
Hmm.
like that then. Oh, you want that now? Be
Hmm.
all right and accept that change is going to happen. And when change is acknowledged and it's said, get in the flow. I think the more that we can get in the flow of life and not be resistant and fight against what's trying to happen, more peace, more joy, more love. But I think as a woman now, it is desiring a man that can
Hmm.
lead the family, has leadership qualities,
Hmm.
because he is going to be the head of the house. And it does start with you men. It starts with you. And yes, a woman is supposed to show up and move in her realm as God has called her, but it starts with you. You set the temperature in the house, or you are the
Hmm.
thermostat, and
Yeah.
the temperature adjusts to you. So I feel like women look for leadership. We look for you to be able to activate that soft side of yourself with us.
Hmm.
We definitely love the strength and the power that you have, but when it comes to us, we would like to see that softness at times, looking for a man that is willing to communicate. I read this book that said communication is to women what sex is to men. So
Wow.
be willing to communicate with us. Yeah, we talk a lot. Yeah, we got a lot to say. Just sometimes we just want you to sit there and be present and listen. We may not need you to say anything, but just because you are showing us that attention and that we matter, that does our heart wonders. And just
Gotcha.
being, I would say, if I could, because the list, we
Yeah,
can talk
yeah,
about it
yeah,
forever, I
yeah.
think, but it's having that relationship with God. I would tell any woman, look for a man that has his own individual relationship with God, because it goes back to what you said earlier. You were able to talk to God and say, all right, I'm messing up right here. And
Hmm.
you were able to self-correct. You didn't need a woman for that.
Hmm.
And as you are in you having that relationship with God, if you will go to him for you, you will go to him for me.
Hmm.
Or you will go to him for your family. And so a man that has that relationship with God, he will be all right with being vulnerable.
Hmm.
Because he's vulnerable with God.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I would say that's what
Okay.
women should be looking for.
Now, I'm going to dig a little deeper on that one because
Okay.
I would love to know, what does leadership look like in your mind, in your world, and also what does communication look like in your world as it relates to the qualities of a man?
And for me, leadership would look like you seeing an issue or a concern and you are desiring to figure it out, and not necessarily by yourself. A leadership
Hmm.
could look like, okay, team, which is wife, this is the problem that I'm seeing. What do you see? So being all right with getting the wisdom from your wife and taking
Mm,
her input with your input, and then making a decision that you feel is in the best interest of the team.
gotcha.
Being a leader is taking, are you having a vision. That
Hmm.
is a leader. This is the vision that I have for my family and wife. This is how I need you to partner with me in order to make sure that our vision happens. And it is taking the lead in that area. If it is seeing that our kids are a certain way, it is, babe, this is what I see. And sometimes wives are with the kids more often, sometimes. And then if I or she's just in tune and in touch in a different way, and she brings it to you, it's like, okay, so let me take it to God, let me take it or even come back to you with it. But it's just taking those moments of being the driving force, like you're in the driving seat. Where
Gotcha.
are you taking me? Like that is the what, where are you taking me? I can say,
Hmm.
if I'm rolling in the car with you in the passenger side, I know you taking me somewhere. And I can sit here and go shift into that submissiveness, that femininity, because I feel safe with you.
Mm,
I feel that I know that if a way needs to be made, you're going to figure it out
hmm.
as the leader, and not
Yeah.
necessarily saying you got to figure it out by yourself. I know you will access the resources that you need in order to fulfill what it is that God is instructing you to do. So I think that's just a little bit of how leadership
Love
shows up.
it. Love it. Love it. And the next one, communication.
Mhm.
Same question, as we dig a little bit deeper with regards to how does that look in your world, communication?
Communication to me is intimacy. It
Okay.
really is. It is a way for us to bond. This will be the ideal situation, and this is like where I'm at in my marriage, where I'm gonna tell my husband whatever, everything, even if it's like I don't know if he gonna be able to take it. I just go to prayer, God. You know my heart, and so I want to be honest. I want to be open. And like you said, vulnerable. I heard this one guy, I cannot remember his name, but he broke down what honesty, transparency, and vulnerability was. And like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times we use them interchangeably, but
Mm-hmm.
they're definitely not the same
Mm-hmm.
thing. And so communication is just being willing and knowing that we can talk to each other. Like, you are the person that I'm the most intimate with. You know, as my spouse, you know everything about me. Where everything that I share internally, you know, but externally, you've been on this journey with me. And so we should be at a place where we can talk about whatever,
Mm-hmm.
anything, because if we can't talk to nobody else, we should be able to talk to each other. I should not have to carry the weight of the world as my husband. He should not have to carry the weight of the world by himself when we lay down every single night together. When we
Gotcha.
have made these vows to God, uh, to have in the whole, through sickness and in health, through richer and poor. Like we saying, we about to do life together. And so us being able to communicate in honesty, meaning if I asked you a question, you're going to give me the truth. In
Mm-hmm.
transparency, I'm going to I'm going to give you even things that you wouldn't even know, if because you don't even know to ask me. But I'm going to
Yeah.
be transparent in my communication because this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm seeing. And so I'm going to be transparent. And that vulnerability, like you were speaking earlier, is just,
Yeah.
I'm going to open my heart to you and I'm going to trust that you're going to take care of it. I'm going to trust that even if you don't know how to handle it and you mishandle it, then I'm gonna be all right.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll know how to get through it on the other side. But I want to communicate with you like I don't communicate with nobody else. Like you ought to be able to say, oh yeah, I knew that about my wife. She
Mm-hmm.
already told me that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know I know her fears because she's told me that. I know her dreams because she's told me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think
Wow.
communication has to be at that level between a husband and a wife.
Good Lord. Man, I am like, I'm so amazed at your knowledge here. And so now there's a flip side to that one too. And
Mm-hmm.
so the question then is posed, what qualities in your having conversations with men do men look for in a woman?
I think men are looking for a woman that is able to activate her feminine energy. A lot of
Mhm.
times, or I guess the women that I'm around are a lot of, as they would say, A-type women, the
Yeah.
bosses. We
Yeah.
bosses in our careers. But when you come home, you got to know how to turn that down.
Hmm.
And we all got masculine and feminine energy. It's just what I believe with our husband, he would like to feel more of that and not our hard or that whole oh, well, what you won't do somebody else will, or you quarrelsome, you argue, and he don't want to feel that.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
want to feel your softness. I just came from a marriage retreat this weekend, and some of the men was just talking about a lot of theirs was external, like the
Hmm.
smelling good, the looking good. But femininity is a being. It's a nurturer. I think
Hmm.
men need that nurturing side
Yeah.
of us, that creative side, that loving side, like you saying, just being able to speak love and life into him. I believe men are looking for women to be wives. Let me talk about wives, to be in that submissiveness. And what I am clear about also is that when well, husbands nor wives really know what the submissiveness is, and
Yeah.
it
That's that's
becomes a
that's that's an
challenge.
interesting one there. Go ahead.
Yeah, it becomes a challenge because for many of us, we were raised that you just do what your husband say
Yeah.
do. You don't have a voice. If he tell you to do that, and then you struggle. I know I was one that was like, I don't really know how this submissiveness is gonna look. I do love him. I do see how my mama show up with my daddy, but oh, what does this mean? Does this mean I gotta do everything he say? I don't have, so I didn't really know what that meant, but now knowing what submissiveness means to what has been revealed from my understanding is that submissiveness is just meaning I trust you to make decisions. And so that means as a wife, he does get the final say because God holds him accountable for the
Mm-hmm.
family. So
Mm-hmm.
a husband doesn't want every time he make a decision that he's questioned about it, in a way of you don't believe in me. I
Mm-hmm.
believe so when I say he wants that submissiveness, that you trust me. You trust that I am doing what is in the best interest of us. And if it's not your way, that now you cutting off sex. Now you don't want to talk to me. Now you
Mm-hmm.
showing up like this just because I didn't do it the way you desired it. So I feel like that submissiveness, wanting a wife that is willing to be submissive, a wife that is willing to acknowledge where she's wrong or where she could have done something better, because wrong and right again could be subjective depending on who it is. But
Mm-hmm.
in your acknowledgement, even acknowledging, okay, babe, I see it like you, but that wasn't, I can see what you're saying, but that wasn't it. So just being able to acknowledge where you could have done something, where she could have done something different or better, or just acknowledging, yeah, I was flat out wrong right there, and
Mm-hmm.
apologizing
Yeah.
for it without, as they say, we give excuses as to why we did what we did. They just want to hear, I was wrong, baby, and I'm sorry.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Miss Candace, man, this has been one awesome coaching class for me, and some things that I can further continue to work on, because I think at the end of the day, even though yes, marriage is a union, we have to work on self.
Yes. Yes, sir.
We have to. It's a continual or continuous journey,
Yeah.
like I said, of improvement always. And so I want to definitely thank you for hanging out. I want everyone to kind of like get to know more about your couples lounge, it's
Uh-huh.
called. Yeah. So
Mhm.
what is that about? Because I thought that was pretty cool what you're doing.
Okay, so the couples lounge originally started in my home, probably about 3 or 4 years into our marriage. I'm like, oh, we ain't
Hmm.
gonna be able to do this by ourselves. So we
Hmm.
started inviting couples over to the house to just have conversations. And because I'm all into doing little things differently or creative, I made a sign and put the couples lounge, decorated everything on my front door. And so we did that for a few years and then ended up writing a book. And as we were going on our journey of marketing the book, or a book tour, so to say, we were going on
Hmm.
podcasts, and somebody was like, y'all need your own show. And I was like, hmm. And it was like, well, we know the couples lounge and we know we want to help couples. And so we turned the podcast and then that whole ministry into the couples lounge. And so it birthed an award-winning podcast,
Oh man.
where we talk about all things love, marriage, relationships, and anything that really builds up the Black community.
Hmm.
At times we will bring in police officers when police brutality and things was
Mm.
happening, to give our community insight in how to show up in the world.
Yeah.
And then it just spun out from there. People started reaching out for coaching. And so we started coaching, and then we host retreats. And so the marriage ministry is one of those things that where I had this little bitty seed and God just like blew on it. Well, God planted the seed and then
Hmm.
he just magnified it beyond what I could imagine. And so we have shifted from Facebook, and now we're on YouTube with the Couples Lounge. But we still have a Facebook page, still have an Instagram page, and so people can follow us there. And my thing is, I just want I want us to win.
Yeah.
And you said it best. It all starts with us. As we change, as we grow, as we get better, it cannot help but to impact our marriages, impact our relationship with our kids, impact the world. Because
Yeah.
when you shift internally, when you go out in the world, people experience you differently.
There we go.
That's the couples lounge.
Couples Lounge. I'm definitely going to be checking that out because I thought that was really, really cool. So I look forward to my wife and I would love, where are you located? You're in the what part of the country?
We're in Texas.
Texas.
in
Like
Texas.
what part of Texas you guys in?
DFW, which is for we
Oh,
stay in
okay.
Fort Worth area.
Okay. Yeah. So one of these days, we're gonna come down to Texas. I'm gonna look you up, and so we can all hang out.
Absolutely. I
I would,
absolutely. And
I
we
would,
always say about the couples lounge, like it's gonna give you something to talk about. So we like
yeah,
our
yeah,
show is it can be a introduction because some topics are hard to talk about. Like we want to talk about it, but we don't know how our spouse is gonna take it. So when couples watch it together, I'm like, just use us. Like, so what you think about what Candace said? What you think about what
yeah,
Ramona said? And then it's a soft way to have maybe a challenging
yeah,
conversation.
yeah. And when we after like a lot of times, after church on a Sunday, we'll come home, and so later on in the night, we'll have that discussion on, what the pastor talked about, and we'll talk to like 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning,
Oh, that's awesome.
and just it's like I gotta get up at 5,
Yeah,
so like it gotta,
yeah,
but that's the new found relationship.
that's
And that's
beautiful.
where we are. And I love that. I love that about us. But Candace, so we can find you where out there? So we got Couples Lounge, look for that. And
Yeah.
also your website and all that stuff.
Yes, so two websites. You can go to www.candicetuck.com or you can go to www.thecoupleslounge.com and you can find me in both places and find Ramon. Well, actually Ramon is on my individual page as well.
Okay.
And so yeah. And our show airs on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock. And that level of conversation, what you just mentioned, that level of communication, I feel is the most powerful. If you can sit together and talk for hours about God, that's life changing. That's life changing.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So Candace, thank you so much for hanging out with us on Living Your Best Life. I truly, truly appreciate your knowledge and your mission and having the willpower to actually step up and show us what
Thank
it
you
looks.
for having me, Todd. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So everybody, check her out. And we didn't get to talk about your lovely hair. When I first met you, I was like, wow, I love your hair. And but like I said, she's not hard to find out there, everybody. You will definitely recognize her. And thank you for your voice and your energy, even more so because you bring the passion, and I love that about you. So everybody, look up Candace Tuck as soon as you can, to grow your relationship not only with yourself, but also with each other in marriage. Everyone, this is Living Your Best Life. And I know that like I said, I love doing these because I get some of the best coaching, like also from the guests that I do invite onto the show. So this one, I learned so much today. So these are some things, some tools, and I'm going to be using from here on out. And I'm going to be checking out the Couples Lounge and all that good stuff. So everyone, listen, check her out, Candace Tuck, and definitely continue to check us out at Living Your Best Life. Alrighty, so everyone, this is Todd Cheek signing off. You guys have a wonderful day and take care. Bye-bye.